So it was 2019. I just made the hardest decision of my life to not continue studying AI, but to drop out before I did a master and go for my passion, something totally different than artificial intelligence.
This is the moment that I choose for video and not for programming. This email represents my choice to do what I'm good at and what I enjoy.
I got a job as a content creator, and with all the hopes in the world, with this great job, I got fired even before I had a month working there. This dream-shattering event turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. So here I was, delivering groceries during COVID in the cold Dutch winter, waking up at 6 a.m. and my dreams felt further away than they had ever been. I was being paid minimum wage, fresh out of college. I landed in the most chaotic 5 years of my life. I didn't know that this chaotic period would set me up for the rest of my life. It would be my greatest teacher. I would have the most lows of any period in my entire life. So I was in this shitty job, right? Stacking groceries in my van. All my support structures fell away. Like I had no college anymore that to give me direction, to test me for exams. This is the basic story of a starter, right? There is this laid out path for you. If you follow college and then go into a job, and then they all help you, guide you towards a place where I don't even know if you want to go there, but the direction is there, you know? On top of that, I had ADHD, so my mind was so chaotic. My mind was like a storm, has been a storm for most of my life. So all these factors just gave me the feeling that I was just drifting aimlessly. Right now, I'm seen by my environment as someone who definitely has a shit together. I manage multiple people and myself. I make my own schedule. I plan my own time. The amount of clarity and focus I have right now, I could have never dreamed of. And I want to tell you today how I got there. What did I learn to get clarity? And I believe if I look at my own journey, there are two key areas where we want to have clarity. And the first thing is your career, or the things that you want to do, the skills you want to develop, the things that will make you money in the end. And your mental clarity, emotional stability, to navigate this chaotic world with intention, you know, and not being pulled in every direction by the world, right? Actually make your own destiny. What skills do you want to develop? How do you actually find something you like? So this is the first thing of my journey. So the first thing you want is career clarity. What I've noticed building new skills from zero, basically, it's very important to know what phase you are in, and which you go through when you're developing a new skill or a new career path. And if you learn everything from scratch, like I did, because I didn't study what I do right now, it really helps to know what kind of phase you are in. Because I've had countless times where I was just beating myself up for not being further than where I was.
It's been a year since we've release something on YouTube, and I keep telling myself this is my dream and I can't seem to get it done. I start videos but I can't finish them. It's eating me. I have so much shit to give to the world and I can't seem to get it out there.
It gave me so much frustration, and actually having clarity again on which phase you are in can help you find more acceptance and eliminate all the frustration that you get from being in a certain place, and actually make you very patient. What a famous quote of Elon Musk.
Wasn't that a Thoreau quote? The comparison is a thief of joy.
Yeah, well, happiness is reality minus expectations.
That's great too.
Basically, what this says is that whatever is the difference between what you expect to happen and what your actual situation is, if your expectations are far greater than what actually happens, you become very unhappy. If your reality is way more than you expected it to be, you are more happy because it was beyond expectation. Very simple, but really nice to have that clear. Once again, knowing in what phase you are in accurately estimates your expectations and prevents you from beating yourself up too much when you are at a place where you don't want to be, right? Try to estimate in which phase you are in to be more happy on your journey. So the 5 phases in which you go through to build a new skill are actually pretty established. If you don't believe me, listen to this guy. He's a Harvard psychiatrist, and he describes in the video I will link down below. I'm actually going to summarize this whole video right now to save you time. So let's go. And he describes the different phases that you need to go through from just curiosity to eventually sticking with a new skill you want to learn.
There is specifically a neuroscience-based skill progression that allows you to take a simple curiosity and turn it into a sustained motivation. I literally mentored someone whose resume was like 3 times as good as mine. It's wild. And it turns out that there is a methodology to this. There is skill behind it.
He describes 4 phases. And on top of that, I wanted to add another phase after that, phase 5, because the scope of the video he described is just when do you reach a point where you're actually sticking with what you do. But there is a phase after that, and I will talk about that because I'm at that phase right now. The actual steps are very important in which you go through these phases because they are all need to be in order, because otherwise you're gonna set yourself up for failure. So please identify in which phase you are and then follow the recipe, basically. That's what Dr. K says. So the first phase, getting curious. So basically this phase, with me, I started dabbling with videography. That's what I do right now. I tell stories. I actually have a client which I help with strategy and YouTube video production and thumbnails. This first phase is in its nature very unclear because you're exploring all kinds of different opportunities, getting a lay of the land. You're getting the 101 of videography, whatever else you're interested in. Being in this phase and thinking, why don't I already know what I want to do? And like all this thinking goes away if you know what phase you're in, right? If you know, oh, I'm just exploring right now, you won't have those thoughts, right? So this is the first phase. And it's okay to not know where you want to go. That's just part of life. That's just, as a kid, I was building drones. I was doing high diving. I got obsessed with Rubik's cubes, whatever. There were so many baseball, so many different interests. I already went through phase 1 with many different things. And this actually brings us to phase 2, zoning in on what you want to do. And yeah, it is what it is, what it says. So this is the moment where you decided, okay, I want to know more about that one specific thing. When I decided I want to go do video, I immersed myself in YouTube content. I was like, every moment that I had some time, I was just watching tutorials and just not doing anything myself, but just getting the information in on what is important to know if you actually want to make a video. And I was just figuring out the basics. I was just actually learning the basics by just seeing others doing video. So phase 3 is actually forming ideas of your own. Forming ideas of your own, actually without external stimulation, without external input, exercising your mind and actually starting to get creative with the ideas, with the information that you got in phase 2. For me, this meant actually starting to think about how I would film things, how I would do transitions. And in the beginning of a video, if you're a videographer, you know that you focus on visuals first. It's kind of the obvious thing. Story and stuff comes way down the road. I was actually, in my free time, I was just thinking about the matter. I thought about cool stuff I could try, things I've seen there, and how we could combine that into something new. But I wasn't actually doing something. At the end of phase 3, I bought my own GoPro and I started to make these little vlogs, these little university vlogs. You can watch them back if you want. But that was just prototyping, just trying out stuff. And it was very easy because all the vlogs are chronological. It's very easy story, and there wasn't really a story. It was just me documenting life on uni. And kind of I started dabbling with actually putting things into practice. And it's actually pretty funny because there are 3 whole phases to go through before you actually start doing stuff. So you can weed out all the stuff that is not truly exciting, and it's totally okay leaving things behind because they don't excite you anymore. That just means that it doesn't stick, and it maybe it will come back later in your life, but if you're not excited about it anymore, just move on and start with phase 1 again and work your way down. You prototyped a little, and then you come to phase 4. And phase 4 is the actual phase where you're actually starting to love it. Loving. Here's where you actually start really implementing what you've learned. You start to experiment, make more videos in my case, and actually sticking to something even when it is hard, because you've unlocked this intrinsic motivation by actually playing with these ideas in your head already. Then it just becomes a challenge that you want to fix. And if you are super demotivated and it feels like an insurmountable thing to actually start making videos, I'm doing this all in my case, but enter your skill. If you feel overwhelmed, the chances are that you're trying to move through this list too quickly. Because if you selected all the tools and you've played with them in your head already before you actually start doing it, then it just becomes an exciting problem to solve. And you have the tools available. Maybe you have to remember yourself, or maybe they need to pop up when you're actually doing something, but you've already seen the solutions. So in phase 4, you actually start to implement the nitty-gritty of what you're trying to do. It actually starting to experience the nitty-gritty details that it requires to finish your end product, right? You will have these obstacles, but you will get through them because you already have the tools. So another thing of phase 4 is that you actually start doing it because you want it, not because anybody else is pushing you. It's really this intrinsic motivation that is key here. And this was actually the moment that I decided to make my profession out of it. This was the moment in college where I've made some videos. I got my first client at the end of college. I got my first 2 gigs. My first gig was $200. My second one was $1,000, and then I was like, oh my god, I can make money with this? Holy fuck. So this was actually the moment that I decided, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna apply for jobs that are in the video area. I had 2 videos and a bunch of vlogs to have a tiny little portfolio. And yeah, in hindsight, I totally wasn't ready. I needed to be in phase 5 before I actually could handle a job that would require me to produce videos every day and actually have a high output volume. I feel like at phase 5, you actually become a professional. The key areas in this case, in my case, was that you start to branch into higher strategy, more production load. After I was fired from that job, freelancing was actually very good for me because I could still be in the loving it phase because I was still prototyping, right? And when you really go into production of a certain skill, you need to have the reps in. So freelancing actually for me was very good because I could spend an enormous amount of time on every production and not have such a huge workload. But in phase 5, you become a professional and start to think higher about things. You start to see the overarching strategy. You start thinking about production workflows and like really professional, great stuff that is actually geared on output. But right now, I feel like I can be confident that I'm at this phase because after 5 years of freelancing, I really understand that I know what I don't know. I'm over that first hump, well, where everything feels new and I see the depth of every single modality of the field because I got all the reps in, right? And I see that certain videos aren't performing. I see that other people are better than me. I can recognize what other people are doing and how good they are and how much better they are than me. At the same time, I got the basics nailed, right? At this stage, you're actually getting really, really fast. There's more an overarching meta thinking about the whole process. And you are leaving the prototyping and actually entering production. And then you are like a full-blown professional. And then you start branching out into different skills and grow that way, grow your skills that way. But then it's all latent to your field, so it's not super intimidating anymore. And you also know that you've got the basics of this certain skill down. So once again, when you know in what phase you are, you'll get that mental peace. And that actually brings us to this second big thing, not the career clarity, but the mental clarity. This is the actual antidote against overwhelm, basically. And it's so funny because you can have very clear on what phase you are, but still get really, really, really overwhelmed with, for example, a gig that you got or some workload that you're not able to handle. Of course, if you know that you are in phase 4, like the prototyping, you know you can strategize that you need more time to finish something and that you'll work double hours for the hours that you actually bill, right? There are strategies to help with that, but I've been crying in my shower for many times because I didn't have this. And even when you are strategizing properly, you know what phase you're in, you will still have those mental breakdowns. When you're doing your own business, you have to do taxes and whatever, or you just landed this new job and something happens. You need to have mental clarity and peace in order to move through that without having a mental breakdown with the smallest setback, right? So this is very much coupled to your inner state. How to keep this stable. There were many situations where it felt like too much. I was moving from place to place because I had financial instability. When you're freelancing, it's super nice, but you still have to get your own clients. And actually for me, it just totally went the other way. I went like, how can I live as cheaply as possible and just kill every referral that I get and actually take my time for it? So I would suggest, if you have the ability to do that, to actually do that, because then you don't put so much pressure on yourself. And actually, in those first phases, just a side note, it is actually very nice to take the time because you're learning the skills way more efficiently. Like I can remember spending like 8 hours on a 3-second intro. It was an animation of falling from the sky through. I made an after movie for an event and I made a Google Maps falling animation. And it took me 8 hours, but it taught me the fundamentals of animation, right? So actually taking your time in those early stages of this process will cement those skills way more deeply, in my opinion. What I realized in this mental clarity thing, how to optimize your inner state. Man, with my ADHD roots, I've tried every planning system out there. And I always thought that the solution must be the perfect method. The planning your stuff in Google Calendar, habit trackers, whatever. I always lost my planning and then I needed to replan. And this cycle, it already started in middle school when you actually start learning how to plan. And I failed up until maybe 2 years ago or something. So it actually took me more than 10 years probably. Yeah, more than 10 years to actually have an efficient planning schedule. And that it's not about the method. It's about, once again, your inner state. Looking back, it has to do with a few things. And the first thing is that you actually don't get rattled anymore by things you don't know. So getting comfortable with the unknown. What this meant for me in practice is that I got comfortable with not stressing myself out because I had a belief system that told me that it was useful to actually be stressed, because then I would stress myself into preparing better, and then everything would work out. And looking back, I see that to get comfortable with the unknown, you don't have you got to stop stressing yourself out about the things that you don't know. Yes, prepare, of course, but do that from a good place. All these cycles with planning and falling back and losing my planning and then starting back up again. If I would have just started with getting comfortable with the unknown and actually cementing in my brain that being relaxed is far more productive than being stressed. And I hear you thinking that this, yes, I'm super productive when I'm stressed out. Yes, but this is all short term. This is all short term because being stressed and being in a stress situation, later on you pay for that because you need to regulate that shit. And if you're not regulating that, you eventually, it will lead to burnout. And I also went there. So trust me, I know. Stressing yourself out is not useful. I actually didn't trust myself that I would make good decisions when I was relaxed. I always got super stressed just before the finals, and then I would study, really stress myself out, and then I just let go, and then I would do nothing. So I thought doing nothing and being relaxed equated to not being productive, and that really got so cemented in my brain. But it's actually the other way around. If you get comfortable with the unknown, you can actually pick it back up again way quicker, because like the rest periods after my exams were like so long. And actually getting consistent will result in actually being proactive, and that gives you so much clarity and helps with the overwhelm, because the overwhelm comes when all the responsibilities push to the deadline, right? And then you get overwhelmed. But if you get consistent, then you can be proactive about things, and that helps way more. If you are not feeling motivated to actually be proactive when you're relaxed, chances are that you're still stressed out, that you're still needing to rest. But if you regulate that shit and you process, then eventually you start to get sick of that, being bored, and then you start to work just out of doing something. And if you went through all the phases that you do something that you like, then you have this intrinsic motivation. But actually the state, the stress that I was putting myself in, that was actually holding me back. That would require me to rest for multiple weeks after an exam, actually getting me behind on schedule again. And this is how it continued. So if you experience the same as what I've just described, you probably have beliefs similar to mine, where you believe that stress is useful in some sort of way, because overwhelm is that stress, is the stress that you can't handle it, right? And that stress is coming from beliefs. Something in you tells you that it's useful that you're stressed. So whenever you feel stress, is what do I believe to be true that makes me feel like this right now? And then you be silent and listen to what comes up. Listen to what you feel is true. Then examine that belief and try to reframe it. Beliefs and reframing. So just to get back to my journey, apparently there was only one thing, so I'll do it like that. So going back to my journey, I just got back of the most busy period of my life. Like I had a shoot in Austria. That's also why I didn't post last week, and I wanted to, but I didn't. In this period, I had a shoot like that lasted a week. And in this shoot, it was so busy that I was often up at 8, quickly eat breakfast, or even not eat breakfast at all, and just go shoot, filming all these talks with physicists and stuff. And often I was just still backing up footage until 11 p.m. Yeah, I'm creating a folder structure for organized footage. Yeah. In the evening, so those are days of 15 hours. So it's just sleep, work, sleep, work, sleep, work. And I did this with little to no stress at all. So believe me, this shit works, man. And that really showed to me, and that's also why I wanted to make this video, is that I've really grown. You get good at what you repeatedly do. And I tried to figure this shit out for so long. And it's not about the method, but I'll later in this video, or in a minute, I will give you my methods, and maybe you can see if it works for you. But this, your inner state, that's the most important thing, and realigning your beliefs with the truth. What is truth for you? The thing is, if you have your own business, so this is for all the business owners, is that nobody is giving you direction. You have to create this yourself. And like when I had a job, there is a certain responsibility that is put on you. You get a schedule, you get assignments, this stress that is coming from your boss or whatever, that is the thing that keeps you going in a sense. When you really don't want to work, you still go in because your livelihood is at risk. So if you feel like you can do something when you're transitioning from a job to your own business, know that that's okay, and that is very normal, and that you've probably been operating in a system where stress was your motivator, and you have to switch to a more relaxed attitude and find the intrinsic motivations for the things you do in your business. When I started my business, I operated on that stress thing again, and I kept stressing myself out, even if I didn't have a job. And that bit me in the ass. Yeah, just one last thing, my methods. So the thing that I use every day to get organized and get clarity, if you are interested. Right now, I really love this method. This is the thing that I use right now, and I really love it. I'll put a link in the description down below. I don't even know how affiliate links work, so I'll just put the Amazon link down. Gotta figure that out though. This is a portable whiteboard, actually, and you have this little light, so I can write things down at night and not like totally burn my eyes. So this is a little red light, and at night, whenever I need to do something, I have this little mini whiteboard with a very tiny pen that can write really, really accurately. Here you see how small the writing actually is. Whenever I'm laying in bed and there goes something through my head, and oftentimes I process and just write things down that are important. Whenever I write something down, or what I'm doing right now, is to write certain tasks, and after I just had a brain dump on my little mini whiteboard, then I'll just go back and I'll just put some priority numbers in which order I need to do them. So that is my method right now. I think it works very, very well. The next day I'll just go through my tasks and just work them off one by one. And that's how I do it. And then for a more rougher planning, I use Google Calendar. I just block the times in which I do tasks, and I block the times when I relax and wind down and process and eat and just keep track of appointments and whatever. So that is what I do. And just a quick rapid fire to close things off. So multiple times a week, I just stare at the ceiling and process and just write down everything that comes up on my little whiteboard. And I only write them down if I label them as useful. So first I weed through the things that are not useful in my head. So if I'm just replaying a conversation because it didn't went well or whatever reason, I'm just observing that thought in my head, and I ask myself, why am I replaying this in my head? Why am I so obsessed about this? And then if that includes a feeling of fear and that I want to do it better in the future or whatever, if I feel very fearful about that, I change my belief system in such a way that fear, like what I'm talking about, like stress and fear, it's kind of the same thing. I try to smell fear in my mind. I try to really look for, okay, is this a fearful thought, or is this rooted in love? Is this rooted in excitement? Or is this rooted in fear? And if it's rooted in fear, just because I made the belief that fear is not useful anymore, stress is not useful anymore, I just let it go and then go further. And if it's excitement, okay, cool, I'm excited about this. Oh, this is a cool idea. Then I'll write it down. And those are the three categories it is in. Or you're super excited about something, and then just think about it and then let it go, because that can make you mad. Excited ideas. So try to let that go as well, because it's still making you in fight or flight. So that is one category. One category is fear, and one category is often things I need to remember. And excitement and things I need to remember, I just write down and then prioritize, basically. Another strategy. The biggest antidote to have mental clarity is actually being distracted. What I've did with myself is I dumbified my iPhone. So this is a new thing, I think, and there's an app, and you can just search on YouTube, I dumbified my phone and it changed my life, like something like that. It's not my video, but there are plenty of videos. And this is actually a funny story because there are actual psychology PhDs studying what is the best color red to make you click on a certain app. All the colors are playing on your psychology. And basically you have a slot machine, a casino slot machine in your pocket that is constantly trying to distract you. I got back so many hours, like from really scrolling a lot. Actually, my thumb finding my app on its own because it was all automated as a habit. I dumbified my iPhone. This is how my iPhone looks right now. It is super clear and it gave me back so much, so many hours. Very logical. But Apple and other phone makers, if you use all those bright colors, you think, ooh, that is attractive, or whatever fucking reason it is, it's attractive to us. Also candy, right? It screams at you. That's for a reason. Actually dumbifying my phone, actually needing to search for apps, and also Opal. I use Opal as a second line of defense to, after 9 p.m, make me wait 20 seconds before I can get on these addicting apps. It really helps for not being distracted. Do with it what you want, but this really, really, really helped me. To close it off, anything that distracts you or scatters you or makes you obsess in a fearful emotion is useful to ban out of my life. That is what I've noticed with myself. And the things that make me feel relaxed, clear-minded and focused is welcome in my life. So I try to minimize and maximize those things. You become good at what you repeatedly do. And I chose to do my passion because I want to be good at my passion, right? I don't want to be good at something that I don't like to do. And I stumbled onto entrepreneurship by being fired. And I continued to do that. And in the process, I lived in a van, moved from place to place. It was chaotic as shit. But I continued through because I knew in my heart that that is my path. And it was so overwhelming in the beginning. But if I had worked in a job, I would need to work 40 hours a week. It didn't even have the time to figure all this shit out, what I'm making these videos on right now. That actually takes time, all this introspection, and actually this freelancing gave me that time in between to figure stuff out, to become better and more skilled. And I chose to live in shitty places, and I gave that up. If I think back right now, if I would have taken a job, also my opportunities, like, yes, it's more comfortable in the beginning. You get your wage, you don't have this uncertainty, but this comfort comes at a great cost. It comes at a price, because this incremental increase in your wage, oh man, that is such a capped opportunity. Right now, I'm in such a good place financially, and I'm actually in a place where I can support multiple people if I would want to. And I actually work only 20 hours per week, and the rest I dedicate to these videos and other things I like to do. And this morning I actually woke up and realized that I fucking made it. That I actually am living a life that my younger self would be so jealous of. And I did that in 5 years, and I can't even imagine what this journey will lead me to. If it's so good already right now, it is worth all the anxiety and all the stress that I actually put on myself, but actually not being able to handle that and figure it out, how this shit works, man, it really set me up for the rest of my life. And in that sense, being fired from that job is the best thing that ever happened to me. Thank you so much. See you in the next video.